Hey y'all. Somebody requested a video on how to market your book, and I was going to point them to the video I've already done on how to market your book, but then I realized I don't think I've done one that's just like going over marketing techniques, like all the different things you could do to market your book and pros and cons. So I'm just going to go over all of the general tried and true marketing techniques for marketing books. And most of these have been in use for years. And I think there's often a tendency online to kind of think that there's always an old way that doesn't work and a new way that is working. That's kind of like behind a secret door, and you're just looking for the person who's going to give you the key to the secret door for the marketing technique that works. But it's not really how it works, guys. The truth of the matter is that the tried and true marketing techniques, they work sometimes. Statistically, they probably won't work that well for you, but if you are going to be successful, these are the things that usually work and have worked for years. The reason that they don't work for most people is because there is nothing that will market your book as well as a good blurb and a good cover. It needs to be a premise that people want to read inherently. And if you don't have that, you're going to have much more of an uphill battle. And, there's waves of this. You can have a premise that it seems like everybody wants to read. That kind of book will practically sell itself. You can have a premise that enough people want to read. Maybe it's not a blockbuster hit, but you feel pretty good about it. You can have a premise that a niche audience wants to read. That can be a bit of a struggle, but you will find them. And then you can have a premise that honestly, nobody wants to read. And a lot of indie books still fall into this category simply because people just write a book without really understanding how to sell a book, psychology of readers, how to write to market, how to write the blurb so that people want to read it. All of that kind of thing is sad but true. That if you're struggling to sell your book, chances are you didn't write a book that's inherently saleable, or your blurb is just a mess, or your cover is just not on track for the market that you're writing to at all. It looks amateurish and nobody wants to click on it. That's just the blunt truth that underpins all the advice I'm going to give you from here on out. Is you have to figure out those two things if you want to sell books. Sorry to say, but it's true. But let's say that you have a book that at least somebody wants to read, even if it's not a huge audience. Let's talk about the ways that you can market that book. So I'm gonna break these down into kind of different categories of marketing. The first is your ongoing perpetual marketing that runs, I don't want to say in the background because you might have to be fairly active in keeping up with it, but it's something that you should be doing kind of on an continual basis. And it doesn't necessarily require doing a big sale or marking your books down. It's the kind of thing you just do on an ongoing basis at whatever price point you've already decided you want to be at. The first one is paid advertising. This is primarily Amazon ads and Facebook ads, although there are some others such as BookBub ads. And you'll sometimes hear people throw around, Pinterest ads, Goodreads ads. I've never really heard of anyone having big success with anything outside of Amazon and Facebook ads, and sometimes smaller targeted BookBub ads campaigns. Telling you how to do any of these techniques in detail is beyond the scope of this video. This is just an overview of giving you an idea of what you might want to research more deeply. If you'd like to research any of these marketing techniques, I really recommend joining some writer groups online. And which writer group you should join, it kind of depends on your genre and your vibe, but they're on Facebook, Discord, Reddit, they're all over the place. Or just networking with your fellow writers on other social media sites, as well as looking at other resources. There's courses, there's YouTube videos, etc. But I'm not going to get into the specifics in this video, both because it would take forever, and I'm not here to be a detailed marketing person. It's not really what my channel is about, but I have tried most of these, so I can at least kind of tell, I can point you in the right direction based on my experience. So you've got Amazon ads, and Facebook ads are the two big ones here. These can be extremely effective parts of a marketing campaign, but they can also be really expensive. If you don't have that blurb and that cover down and you're not good at just marketing yourself, you can burn a heck of a lot of money very quickly and get almost no return for it. So there's like kind of a learning curve at first to find out, like, are you able to market yourself effectively and how to set up your campaigns and just use the platforms. But once you do, and if you do figure out a formula that works, these can often become a lot more set it and forget it. And you just kind of might go in every couple weeks and kind of look at your metrics and tinker with things a little. But it's not something that you're spending hours on every day unless you want to be one of those people who does that. I had very good luck with Amazon ads for a long time, but they have since kind of changed their algorithms, and it does not work for the kind of books that I write anymore. Disheveled editing Lydia here. In fact, I wanted to note that my experience with Amazon ads is that they were so effective when they were kind of newish, like for the first 5 years or so that they were around, that they became kind of the main pillar of my marketing strategy and is a big reason for the success of my indie writing career. However, the whole thing about how Amazon ads work changed drastically around like 2022. And ever since then, I have not really been able to crack Amazon ads anymore. And I honestly think this is a big reason why my indie career, I don't want to say collapsed, because the number one reason it collapsed is just because I had to take a long break. But it was already going downhill, and part of the reason is because Amazon ads were not working anymore, and I had not figured out a new strategy to replace it. And I still really haven't figured out anything that was as effective as those Amazon ads were. So this is one of the perils of an indie career. Like even what I'm doing now, if YouTube made some massive change, like I could suddenly see my whole life fall apart. So, and we're seeing that currently with TikTok. A lot of people who were making their living based around a TikTok strategy are now having a hard time because TikTok has been changing rapidly, has new ownership. A lot of people are leaving the platform. At the time I recorded this video, in fact, I didn't know how the TikTok swap was really going to go. And so far, it seems like it's not going great. So, it's always good to have multiple things going if you can, but it also means that you're pulling your attention away from maybe when Amazon ads were working, they were working so well. It was like, why would I want to spend a lot of time on something else? That's kind of the great peril of writing and marketing strategies, is you never know when the rug's going to get pulled out from under you. You can try to diversify, but the more you diversify, the more likely you're going to find that one thing is just working the best. And that's that. That often is the case. So good luck out there is mainly what I'm getting at. Facebook ads I also have some luck with, but I just find them kind of a pain, and I don't like giving money to Facebook. So I don't use these currently, but I can attest that for certain books, they can be extremely effective. The other type of ongoing marketing is, of course, social media. We're mainly talking TikTok and Instagram, also to some extent Threads, Blue Sky, and X. And you could also add in YouTube, but I feel like YouTube is a bit of its own entity. The good thing about the social media is that it doesn't have to cost you anything except your time. But if you don't have a lot of money, then you probably have more time than you do money. Or if you are trying to market within a smaller niche, this is a way to kind of find those audience members without paying stupid amounts of money on the advertising platforms. So if you have a book that's like a little more niche, a little more off market, you're going to really struggle with Amazon and Facebook ads. But you might be able to find your people slowly but surely by using Instagram and TikTok. My main advice, as always, for social media platforms is they've gotten more scattered these days. It's harder to be everywhere than it used to be. So I wouldn't try to be everywhere all at once. And I wouldn't try to learn kind of the quirks of every platform all at once, because you can really stress yourself out. Like if you like TikTok best, you want to learn TikTok, there's no harm in posting to Instagram, whatever you post on TikTok, But if you try to optimize for both Instagram and TikTok, you'll make yourself crazy very quickly. So my advice these days is to pick the one that you like the best or at least hate the least and kind of work on that one first. See if you can get that one to work for you. Use that one to kind of feel out the vibe and network. And then if you kind of start to feel like either that one's not working at all and you actually hate it, or you've kind of gotten the groove with that one, then try branching out maybe to a second one. Don't try to be everywhere though. Like there's just too many. And if you can find a way to make it kind of fun, to fit in with what works, but also to make it feel like you are not just following a cookie cutter template, always remember your audience. What's going to make them want to read your book? And try to give them that. If you are having zero fun with your social media marketing and you hate everything you're doing, chances are it's going to be hard to attract readers to it. So like try to find a way to like come up with some fun hooks or a different angle for your marketing. Easier said than done, I know. But my experience with TikTok is it was a complete failure until I tried an angle that felt a little more fun for me and a little more authentic to the book, because I'm writing kind of quirky niche books right now, and it actually worked a lot better once I kind of threw out the common advice and started to think like, what would get me as a reader to like be attracted by this ad, and just started doing that. So like try different things. The other thing you can use social media for is just like networking and meeting other writers and learning from them. But that's kind of a different plan, a different reason for being there than marketing yourself. So you got your ongoing marketing. Then you also have like your targeted within a specific time frame marketing, like running a free sale on book one, running a 99-cent sale, running like a series bundle sale, running a holiday sale, you know, stuff like that. The most common way to do this is to use paid mailing lists, of which the biggest one is BookBub. BookBub is a site that you can submit your books to, and they're very pricey compared to the other places, but they also have the widest reach, and they don't accept everyone. In fact, they're quite particular, and sometimes it can take a long time to get accepted. They also don't like books that are in Kindle Unlimited nearly as much as they like wide books. So if you're in Kindle Unlimited, this can be a bit of an uphill battle. I didn't really start getting very many BookBubs until I went wide. But in my experience, they do usually make their money back, at least, if not many times their money. And since they're kind of expensive, this can be quite a nice boost. If you spend $500 but you make $2,000, that's like pretty effective compared to the ones where you spend $100 and make $200, you know? The second biggest one is probably Free Booksy and Bargain Booksy, run by Written Word Media. Not only do they offer their services for free and 99-cent books sent out to mailing lists, but they also offer some bundles where you can add on some other sites, which can save you some time applying to a lot of different sites and just do it all through Written Word Media. So I've opted for that sometimes. I will do Free Booksy, free sales on my books now and then, just to kind of keep things moving. I have a large back catalog, so I can rotate between different series pretty regularly and just run a free sale and get like a kind of ongoing boost in visibility that way. It's like $100 to run a Free Booksy in my category. So I usually find that it at least makes like double what I spent. And there's probably a tail that is very hard to track, because you never know if somebody like had your book on their Kindle, they didn't actually read it till a year later, buy the sequel. So some of your marketing you just won't really know, but over time, if you don't do any marketing, you'll start to realize that it was probably doing more than you thought it was. The other things you can do with sales are swaps with other authors. You can find these often on like Facebook groups and through other types of networking, or by signing up for BookFunnel, which is a site that kind of offers book distribution services along with having like a mailing list, like different swaps that you can sign up for through their site. So you can also do that, and that won't cost you anything, unlike a Free Booksy or a BookBub and those other kind of mailing list services. Well, okay, it won't cost you nothing. You will have to sign up for a BookFunnel subscription, but the cheapest plan is $20 annually, so it's not it's not an expense that's going to kill most people. Another type of book marketing to do is more based around building a community. And if you're writing books that are a little more niche, oftentimes focusing more on your long-term community building is more effective than paid advertising or doing sales where people don't really get to know you or your work particularly. Like when I was writing to market romance, I mainly used paid ads and paid mailing lists for my marketing. But now that I'm writing a little more like niche, cozy fantasy novels, I'm more likely to think about community building long term and just having a smaller audience that's more deeply invested in me rather than just fly by night like, oh, that book sounds really hot, you know? So you have to kind of think about what sort of books you're writing and what's worth your time to invest in. So things you might think about with community building. This is where YouTube has really been good for me. This has been a great place for me to build community, but it is not like, you know, quick money. It's like a job in and of itself, maintaining a YouTube channel. So that would be a big part of your strategy if you were going to do a YouTube channel, is like building up the YouTube channel in conjunction with your books. You should always have a mailing list. Like from the second that you publish a book, you should always have a mailing list, and you should have a sign up at the back of every book. And everywhere that you have a social media presence, I probably don't even have this right now, but you should. If you're being smart, you should have your mailing list sign up everywhere. You can either use a paid mailing list service like MailChimp or MailerLite, which will offer you a lot of services where you can really wield your mailing list in intelligent ways to retain your audience. For example, you can set up like a welcome sequence where as soon as they sign up, they get an email that's like, hey, here's a free book. Thanks for joining. And then you can have it automated so that like a month later, another automated email goes out to every new sign up and says like, you know, hey, introducing you to my series, blah, blah, blah. And you can talk a little bit about like one of your backlist series and why you love it and why you think they'll love it too. You can just kind of have like automated sequences that like let people know, here's my books, offer them freebies, stuff like that. There's like a lot of customizable stuff with MailChimp and MailerLite. But you do have to pay for them. They can be fairly expensive. And it cannot, like for me, it was for the type of particular ADHD brain that I have, I was so confused by how to use all of that stuff. I can't. I couldn't figure it out. I feel so stupid just thinking about it. So I paid a lot of money for MailChimp and didn't really use any of the benefits of it, and it was just a big waste of money. So I switched to Substack, which is a different type of platform. Does not have as many of those type of like mailing list sequence and like distributing freebies and stuff. It has some different benefits, like a little more like a social media platform. Also, you can get people to pay for your Substack, and I have had paid Substack members for a long time. So I would rather the money flow to me than go to MailChimp. So I prefer Substack, but for some people who use their mailing list really well, they're going to want MailChimp or MailerLite or any of the other mailing list services out there. Another way to build a community, Facebook groups. Some people are still using Facebook groups very well. And if you're in on like a Facebook audience, then that's a good way to build like a loyal community, and you can use it in conjunction with Facebook ads, and like that can kind of be your little ecosystem. I had a Facebook group for a while. I did not use it very well. I did not really gel with Facebook as well as YouTube, but it just depends what kind of person you are. And also what your audience is, because, you know, Facebook has a certain type of audience. So a lot of times it's kind of the like middle-aged to older woman reader who's on Facebook, I've noticed, as far as like who's using Facebook effectively. I've also seen people talk about like just reader groups, just being active members of reader groups, which could be on Facebook, could be on Reddit, different book groups. I've not used this strategy. It seems kind of time consuming to me. Like I would have to really read a lot, but if you do read a lot and you really already are participating in book groups or like to do that kind of thing, well, that can certainly work. And there's also like having a Patreon. getting people to support you that way and giving them bonus material. If you're the kind of person who really likes to do bonus material and like side stuff, then a Patreon can be a really good option to get people to sign up for that. And of course, you can also have a Discord in conjunction with your YouTube channel, your Patreon. You kind of want to be thinking about like, what's the pipeline? Like if your strategy is community building, what is your strategy for getting people into your community ecosystem? So like for me, I started with the YouTube channel. Then I'm kind of like building people's trust with the channel and then funneling them both to my books and to my Patreon, Substack, YouTube memberships. And from the from the memberships, I'm funneling them into my Discord. And then I'm getting some people who maybe didn't pick up my books immediately, as they saw more of me on Discord or Patreon, then were like, oh, I'm going to read your books. So I kind of had to think about the whole strategy of like, how am I moving people through my pipeline? And that's something you want to consider as like, are you going to be promoting like, I'm going to be on Threads, I'm going to promote my Substack, and I'm going to lead people to Discord, and then I'm going to lead people to my books. Like that might not be the smartest example, but like, just think about like, where are people going to find you first? How are you going to retain them? How are you going to use that to get them into your fictional worlds? Similar to community, in fact, kind of what I've already talked about, but a little different, is having like a secondary presence online. This is where you're not necessarily trying to directly just build your bookish community, but you're forming a second identity that people might know you just as well through this other identity as they do through your writing community. So like me as the cozy creative on YouTube, this is like a secondary identity because I talk about a lot of things. Not all of them are meant to sell my books. And this whole thing has become kind of a job in and of itself. Another example I can think of, I don't know her name offhand, but I've seen her pop up a lot on social media, where she's that lady who talks about tropes, and she's really funny, and she like pretends to be typing, and she's like, writing romantasy novel, blah, blah, blah. Like, this is the main way that I know her, is that she's hilarious on social media, kind of making fun of tropes. But I know that she also has a book, and I see that as kind of like a secondary presence where she's probably more known for her social media than her books, is my suspicion. The fact that I don't even know her name is probably kind of telling there, but I imagine she's getting a certain number of people who follow her. I'm not like a big social media, like Instagram, TikTok user, so I don't even like know who's anybody's name is, but there are people who I'm sure like follow her and love to see her next video and then are like, oh, I'll read your book. But it's not like as direct as just building a community that's based around your books first and foremost. However, it can be gratifying in its own right. And then there is ways that I would say are not your primary forms of marketing, that this would not be all you would do usually, but are ways of extending your reach and your income, kind of your add-ons. And these are doing serialization first. I know some people who did really well by serializing on like Royal Road before they released the book, and then like getting Patreons through Royal Road. Then you publish the book as like a whole book and you get a whole new audience that way. That's not like the most common path, particularly more common for certain genres, but it is an option, especially if you like to write to serials, which is not a thing we can all do. I'm not like a good serial writer, but if you are the kind of person who likes writing that way, you might think about it. Deluxe editions, you can sell these on a TikTok shop. You can sell them directly through your website. Like if I did a deluxe edition, I could sell it through my YouTube channel. You can do Kickstarters, which will often attract just people that hang out on Kickstarter looking for cool projects to back. I have not done a deluxe edition because I haven't felt like any of the books that I cared about enough to put time into a deluxe edition have sold well enough to do a deluxe edition, if that makes sense. But if you have a book that's like doing kind of well, not even necessarily blockbuster well, and if you like kind of finding good artists and like designing a nice cover, like, you know, just kind of figuring out how to package a book beautifully. And also you often have to handle the shipping and stuff yourself. So it can be time consuming, but this is some people's like big money maker nowadays. Some people have done really well with special editions. There's translations. We'll probably be seeing more AI translations too. So that might become more popular, but I haven't done translations because it can be very hard to find a good translator. I'm opposed to AI, and then you also have to figure out the piece of marketing in other languages and other countries. But I do know some authors who've done super well with translations. Audiobooks are kind of a no-brainer if you can afford it. They're very popular. People love them. It's a great way to make extra money if you can swing the cost. And again, you can do AI audiobooks as well, but I am just opposed to it, won't do it, don't want to encourage it. There's also direct sales. This could be selling ebooks through a shop, so you're giving less of a cut to like Amazon. And you can also sell, you know, signed copies of your paperbacks. You can sell deluxe editions. You can sell extra merch and stuff like that. So this is a good way both to kind of add bonus content and to hold on to more of your profit. But it does require the setup of doing a shop as well as kind of handling the merchant side of things yourself. And kind of like running mailing list sequences. I am very overwhelmed by this kind of thing, so I haven't tried it, but I do know people that are doing very well that way. So those are that's just kind of a rundown of the main ways that I can think of to market your book. And the one other thing that I wanted to mention is that you should always make sure you're maximizing the back matter of all of your books. Don't miss an opportunity to tell people to join your mailing list and read another book that they might like. If you have a new series, but you also have an older series that the same readers might like, don't miss the opportunity as soon as the book ends to be like, hey, if you enjoyed this one, you might like this story about such and such, and like give them a little hook, give them a little enticement to stay in your reader world. And it's also a good idea to remind them to give you a review if they like the book. I keep forgetting to do that, but it is a good idea. So yeah, do not waste the back matter. That is one of the easiest and most passive and free ways to market out there, is just to not waste the back matter. And I think that's about it. I probably missed something. Please let me know if you know of any other marketing tactics that I forgot to mention in this video, or if you have something kind of quirky that's working for you, or by the same token, if you've tried any of these, what your results were, or if you haven't done any marketing yet, what are you most excited to try out of this list? And if you have any questions, I will try my best to answer them. If you're new here, my name is Lydia Foxglove. I've been a full-time creative since 2009. And on this channel, I talk about the creative life in general and the writing life in particular. If you'd like more from me, I have memberships through Substack, Patreon, and YouTube, where you get 2 bonus videos per month voted on by you guys, and access to my Discord server, where we have an awesome community of writers and artists. If you'd like to read any of my books, there's a link in the description. The Hidden Lands books are the books of my heart, the ones I always recommend first. But my free book of the month is Captain Hook and the Mermaid, one of my favorites in my steamy fairy tale series, and I drew a lot from the source material of Peter Pan, which I had not read prior to writing it, but I really liked more than I expected. It gave me so much inspiration that I didn't expect. I post every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern and sometimes on Wednesdays, and I'd love to see you again. Thank you so much for all of your support. I'll see you next time. Bye! Should we wake him up? Little lion. Little lion. Yeah, there you are. There's my sleepy. There you are. Yeah. There's my sleeping little handsome guy. Yeah. Okay, you can go back to sleep now.